We will dive into talking all about alligator pears, also known as avocados. Nobody knew it was an alligator pear, right?
She did. I
She
did.
did. You did?
My kids call it that.
Your kids call it that?
Yeah.
Okay, well that's neat. So we're gonna talk about how to grow them, how to plant them, how to fertilize them, how to water them, all the good fun things, and that you don't actually need 2 trees to have fruit for an average backyard home orchard. I know everybody thinks, oh, you gotta have 2 avocado trees. You need an A type and a B type. And yeah, if you're a commercial orchard, you're gonna wanna have an A type and a B type for better pollination, but A types are really motivated people. They're the ones who are open, yeah, right? So they come out first thing in the morning, receptive to pollen. So they're a female flower in the morning, and they close in the afternoon and reopen the following afternoon as a male. And B types are a male flower in the afternoon and close in the evening and reopen the following morning as a female. And so that way, if you have an A and a B type together, you've got all that cross-pollination going, but they're now discovering and realizing that you can have A and B type flowers on the same tree, so you don't have to have 2 trees. So this way an average backyard home gardener can get enough fruit for themselves. You don't have to have the 2 trees. You're not worried about being a commercial home orchard. This talk is geared mostly to Southern Arizona. We will include some all the way up to Phoenix, because we do have some online joining us from Phoenix, but we are the Tucson Rare Fruit Growers branch. So down here for us, yes, we need to talk cold. I mean, had snow 4 times at my house just on the east side this winter. 4 snows. 2 stuck on the ground, 2 times it was just snowing. 1 time was flurries for 20 minutes and then the whole storm was gone. Didn't rain before, didn't rain afterwards. Clouds came in, snowed for 20 minutes, and then the sun came out. Another time it snowed for an hour without sticking on the ground, so it's nice to enjoy. So you've got 3 types of avocados. The West Indy, which those grow from about Miami southwards.
Ooh.
You get north of Miami and it gets too cold. Those are ones that can weigh like 2-3 pounds. They're just massive avocados. May have a big long neck, a lot of flesh to seed ratio on them. Yeah, just not going to happen here. Like I say, they gets low 30s and they're hating life. Guatemalan avocados. Guatemalan avocados are hardy depending upon the variety, upper 20s to low 30s. So those can make it here depending upon where you're at in town, maybe providing more cold protection to them. And then the Mexican avocados, depending upon the variety, they're hardy down in the mid-high teens to low to mid-20s. So that's where you're going to have your big cold tolerance, which might be better for those of you who want to grow them here. If you're more the northwest side of town or out where ironwoods are growing naturally, your warmer part of town, everybody knows Orange Grove Road here in Tucson. That was a citrus orchard 100 years ago. Well, they also grew avocados and a number of other tropicals up there as well, because it's like a little thermal belt down and through there, so it stayed much warmer. Orange Grove Road? Orange Grove Road. The road. The road, Orange Grove. That the whole road has a whole thermal belt along in there.
What was the ranch?
It was 100 years ago. I don't remember the
There's
name.
still a citrus orchard there.
There's still citrus part of that. A lot of the apartment complexes, some of the townhomes, there are people who have some of the.
Job for the lady's family that owned that.
Yeah.
Now that you mentioned that, yeah.
Yeah, so there's some down in there, so we're.
She still has some of her.
She's still got some on there, and they're starting to die off,
Yeah,
and
they don't
so
look very good.
it's she's got dates, she's got everything up in there. So yeah, it's good. It's fun. You can do it here. It's going to take work. So avocados are subtropicals, but they will still. And there's over 1,000 varieties of avocados now with hybrids throughout the world. I mean, I think Hawaii alone at one point was growing up to 200 different varieties. So many of them that we know and like are going to be hybrids between a Mexican and a Guatemalan variety. their biggest issue is poor drainage. They'll grow on just about any soil type, acid to alkaline. The best soil pH range for them is, they prefer like a 6 to a 6.5, say a 6 to even a 6.8. The best soil pH range is a 6.2 to 6.5. So that's in most of Arizona. If you're lucky, you're a 7 or a 7.5. A lot of places you're an 8 and above. So yes, we do have a lot of issues with them. That's where you're going to get your burnt brown leaves. That's where you're going to have burnt edges on them. The high pH inhibiting especially a lot of micronutrient uptakes, iron, magnesium, poor drainage here. Avocados are very susceptible to Phytophthora cimimoma. So basically you're getting root rot, and that's the type of Phytophthora if you've got poor drainage. So when you water them, you want deep, long, infrequent waterings. And deep watering means putting the hose on like a slow trickle or your drip irrigation and running it for hours and then days to a week in between watering.
How many
So-
hours, Tony?
Well, so the first summer, maybe you're going to run a drip irrigation for 1.5 to 3 hours, depending
Okay.
upon how well your soil absorbs the moisture, how well it retains it. Jake and I were texting back and forth before this tonight. He's in center part of Tucson, a lot of caliche, poor
I've got
drainage.
sandy soil. I've got more sandy.
So sandy soil is great. So if you've got sandy soil, amend it with a lot of peat moss. He's got heavy clay, so he's been building his up and mounding it up. So I mean, I got pictures I can show you that he texted me later of his avocados doing great, and even one in potting soil. So you build it up on a mound so you've got good drainage, blend in a lot of compost and heavy clay soil, no peat moss in clay soil. Peat moss is great in sandy soil, no peat moss in clay soil. Peat moss in clay soil is going to make the drainage worse. Cocoa coir in clay soil will make the drainage worse. So no cocoa coir in heavy clay soil. You want to avoid that altogether. You know, everybody loves coconut coir because hey, it's great, it retains moisture, it's going to replace peat moss, and well, it has issues retaining magnesium and calcium, and still is high in salts, even though they've triple washed it, sometimes 5 times washed it in potable drinking water to try and flush all the salts out of it. So cocoa coir in heavy clay soil, peat moss in heavy clay soil is a major no-no. It's just going to make the drainage worse. And that's where you get a lot of root rots and diseases on these, especially avocados, getting susceptible to Phytophthora. Now what you got to remember, go and look at, if you're in Guatemala, Peru, Ecuador, Costa Rica, what are they, 40 to 70 inches of rain a year. So, but some of those areas may or may not have the drainage. Hawaii, where they grow most avocados in Hawaii, about 50 inches of rain a year. It doesn't all come at once, it's spaced out. So when you water, good, long, slow, deep soaking. Now wintertime, maybe that's, you might have to go once every week or 2 weeks the first winter to keep them going as they're still developing roots. By the third winter, at most you're watering once a month, and that's if it doesn't rain. But then it's going to be, you know, maybe it's a 4 to 6 hour run, good, long, slow, deep soaking to get a good drink to it. If we get normal winter rainfall, you don't need to do any other watering at all. Just let them go on their own, and that's going to be starting sometime between Halloween and Thanksgiving, and you're going to stop, or you're going to have to start picking up watering sometime late February to late March, just depending upon how the weather goes, temperatures, especially nighttime temperatures. Nighttime temperatures are going to dictate more for how quickly things dry out than during the day, especially over the winter time. So
you want to water like you would any other tree out by the canopy edge, correct?
yeah, you're going to water the entire underneath the canopy of the tree. So
Underneath the canopy or
the
outside edge?
there are roots underneath the entire canopy. You just water at the canopy edge, you're missing half the roots. You're not keeping the soil biome happy, all the beneficial fungi and bacteria. You don't water up to the trunk. You stay a foot or two away from the trunk,
That's what I was saying, at least.
but you still water that entire area. And realize that trees, the roots don't stop at the canopy drip line or stay short of it. They go up to 3 feet beyond the drip line. And avocados have strong roots. They'll choke out and kill out other trees later on. And avocados are actually an understory tree. So a lot of times many avocados start out underneath other trees, or they like to come in after other trees have been growing there and maybe died out, because they really like that good drainage. So you've got a lot of other trees have already gone through, broken up the soil, they're going to grow in with them, and avocados will grow sun or shade. So they may not, oh, hold on, you're getting going, so hold on. Avocado trees, in general, you're going to see it said they will grow sun or shade. They need sun to produce. Here in Arizona, you want to have shade for the first 2 to 5 years. So you're going to want to put at least 50% shade cloth over them the first summer. Now, Mexican avocados are even more so in wanting or needing shade, even say in regions such as Florida, when they're younger where the sun isn't an issue, than the Guatemalan. So Mexican avocados tend to like more shade than the Guatemalan. Now as they get older, and you'll start to see a rougher trunk on them, say about 3 to 5 years down the road when they get a rougher looking, older, aged looking trunk, that's when they can start to handle sun. And so you don't take the shade cloth off though the middle of summer. So you'll take it off in the fall and allow them to grow up into that sun that first year. So that's what you want to have going on there. But yeah, the Mexicans especially want more shade. Now, if you go,
mostly here.
What's that?
What is best here?
Well, best here is the Mexican. None of them are best here because of our pH. So there is none of them that are best here. Okay, that's the Mexican are better in Tucson because of the cold we have. If you get to warmer parts, start getting to the northwest side of town, where it's warmer than the east side of town, then you can grow either one. It just depends how much effort you're willing to put into protecting them from the wintertime. The other issue is, especially if you're on the east side of town, where it's colder, Mexican avocados, all of them are generally going to bloom like January to March timeframe. So late winter to early mid-spring, depending upon the variety, depending upon how the weather's going. If you get a good freeze, you're going to lose the flowers. Mexican avocados would be more prone to reblooming if they've lost the flowers to the cold than, say, a Guatemalan type. Mexican avocados, so time to ripening from flower to fruit harvest is 6 to 18 months. So most Mexican avocados are going to flower in the spring, and the fruit is going to be ripe anywhere from October to December of that year. Guatemalan avocados aren't going to be ripe till the following spring or summer. So if it's a cold year like this year, and remember the snow wasn't the issue. Snow isn't what does the damage to the plants. It's the cold that comes after the snow that's the issue. So the snow is actually a blanket. So if it snows in the evening and then you see the freeze coming, don't run out and knock the snow off the tree. The snow is an insulator. It's going to protect your tree. That's what you want to have. So let that be going. That's going to be the good thing to have.
Yeah, the two that I knew about, they were Mexican avocados, and they were on Camino Seco, right next to the wash, just south of Speedway. But they had a little pond that was closer towards the house. They kind of cascaded over them. The wall was it was a wood wall, and then it was about 6 foot tall, and then the wash was about a foot back, and then down about 12 feet.
Yeah.
So that's where they were at, and they did really well. I don't know what or how they treated it.
So it's
Pine would help the soil, wouldn't it? The pine.
well, so if they leave the pine needles there, they may acidify it some. But like I said, avocados, contrary to popular belief, do not need a very acidic soil. You look at where the main avocado growing region is in Mexico, that pH runs 6 to a 7. They're not in a 5. They're not at a 5.5. They're 6 plus. So easily 6.2 to 6.5, even 6.2 to 6.8. So they don't have to have super acidic. And to that end, it may almost take so many pine needles to be applied that they would become toxic. They would kill everything else that grows underneath them, because pines are allelopathic and soils tend to resist change. So here's a great lead-in. So what do we do with soils here to reduce the soil pH? But sulfur. So how much sulfur would you use at planting just for a 5-gallon avocado tree? No less than 5 pounds. 5 to 10 pounds. So I had one of my professors at the U of A 30 years ago telling us of something somebody in the university went out to the Wilcox Playa, where the pH is like an 8 to a 9, poured gallons of sulfuric acid on it, brought it down into the 6 range. I don't remember exactly now, it's been too many years. And 3 days later it was back to where it was, like it had never changed. Soils resist change, so we're not going to go into the whole reason why. So we want to lower the pH. A lot of compost, a lot of organic matter, that's going to help lower the pH. Get quality stuff, go to your regular independent garden center, get some good quality compost, and it will take 5 to 10 pounds of agricultural sulfur at planting to help lower the pH. And you're going to put like a third at the bottom of the hole and the rest mixed with your compost soil mixture. And remember, you want your tree up on a mound. If you have heavy clay soil, you want to build like a volcano there. You don't bury the tree in the volcano, you just have the tree up on almost like a volcano so that you've got good drainage and let their roots grow out, because they'll grow 5 feet deep if the soil's good enough.
What if you didn't put it in though when you're planting? What do you do now?
What do you do now? Well, you got sandy soil, but what do you do now? So for those of us who don't, go in over the winter, like mid-late winter when it's going to be mild, February, March. This year would have been 2 weeks ago. We're going from winter to summer this year. We're not having a spring. And you can just gradually pull the soil away while it's wet, because you do also want to expose the root flare. So you literally want to see where the roots attach to the main base of the tree, like your knuckles attaching to your hand there, going down out into the soil. So a mature tree you might want to see out like a foot and a half diameter. You're just planting a 5-gallon tree, you just want to see the roots right at the soil surface. That will help prevent Phytophthora and even other diseases, soil-borne diseases, from settling in on all of your fruit trees, no matter what the variety is. And then you can just slowly dig down, out, and away. Now, one thing I like to do with all of my trees after I plant it, I go out 6 feet wide, and 6 inches deep. If I had that just as a straight square hole, what are we lacking here? Water. We get a good summer thunderstorm, you're easily catching around 120 gallons or more of water in one good summer thunderstorm in a 6 by 6 foot hole that's 6 inches deep, whereas everybody makes the ground flat and it all runs down the street and you lose all that free water. So if you've got a good basin, and then every winter, in case you cut any roots, so mid-late winter, go in and every year keep going down that 6 inches and expanding out and stay a foot or two beyond the spread of your trees. Because here's the other thing, when you put fertilizer out there, if you're going to water it in now, how do you water it in? Because drip irrigation doesn't water in any fertilizer well. You need to have a recessed basin so that you can put it in, and then you can go back in and backfill a lot of that with compost, and then that's going to help retain the moisture even more, so that in the long run you're going to be using even less and less water. So because when you do water, then now you've got all 2, 3, 4 inches of compost or mulch on top to go back in there. And here's the other thing, when your leaves fall, let them fall. Let them stay where they fall. Quit raking up all your leaves. Let them compost right there on the spot. If they all blow into the corner of the yard, let that be your natural compost pile. That's Mother Nature doing her thing. Let her do her thing. You don't have to worry about doing it yourself.
Do you add more sulfur though?
You can add more sulfur, like a pound per 100 square feet of area, 1 to 3 times a year in the spring. But if you start building up, if you put a lot of compost in at planting, keep adding compost every year, doing an organic fertilizer, you are going to bring that pH down.
Is fish fertilizer okay?
Fish emulsion is okay, but just realize when you're doing liquid fertilizers here, and it may or may not do much at affecting the pH versus a granular, but when it comes to liquid fertilizers, nobody even reads that fish emulsion is applied every 2 to 3 weeks. here comes summer, we're watering so often, you can apply it once a week to stay beneficial, because when you're doing any kind of liquid fertilizer, we water so much here, you're leaching it out right away. It's gone, especially nitrogen. Nitrogen, just you put it on, whether it's a dry or a liquid, synthetic or organic won't lose as quick as a synthetic. It's going with the water. Nitrogen is very volatile. It can dissipate, turn back into a gas. Our atmosphere is 78% nitrogen. Plants are greener after it rains because lightning anywhere in the world turns nitrogen into fertilizer. There's 30,000+ tons of nitrogen as a fertilizer in gas form in the atmosphere of the world being blown around on the winds at any given time. There's some good graphics on it showing it all colored so that every time it rains, it's fertilizing your plants wherever you are in the world, any time of the year. So fish emulsion is fine, but just be ready to use it on a much more regular basis. Dry organic fertilizers can be applied monthly. If you do a fertilizer tea, that's going to be the same as fish emulsion. You could do a dry organic once a month initially in the spring, and then follow up with fertilizer teas or liquid like fish emulsion if it helps the budget out, because organics are expensive, and I know because I developed one of the most expensive fertilizers out there. So it's
Tommy, would you use your?
what's that?
Cottonseed meal?
So cottonseed meal will work fine
Does it help
too.
with the acidity also?
Cottonseed meal is the only organic fertilizer that will lower the pH. So if you look at all these other organic fertilizers out there, they're all the same ingredients bag to bag, except for ones that say acid form, because generally what they did was they added cottonseed meal to them. So that's what you have going on, is cottonseed meal has been added to go with it to help acidify it. But again, here, if you haven't had a lot of organic matter, it's not going to keep lowering that pH or maintaining it. Now, if you do got cottonseed meal, if you go to a nursery and buy it, you're going to get organic, non-GMO cottonseed meal. If you try and go to places that might be cheap or feed stores or those kinds of things, that's where you can be running into getting GMO cottonseed meal. Same with alfalfa meal.
Heavily sprayed cotton, because cotton is heavily sprayed
Oh,
commercially.
right.
Right,
Yeah,
so
so-
cottonseed meal would be heavily sprayed.
Yeah, and so your alfalfa if you go to feed stores, that tends to be where your GMO alfalfa ends up. If you go to a nursery, their alfalfa meal is generally non-GMO. So that can be one other way to look at it.
What's the one that had the non-GMO?
That'll be independent garden centers. It'll be regular nurseries versus feedlots.
Oh,
Tony, yours is liquid, correct?
No? No.
So, Tony's in the end, sounds like it's gonna be cheaper because.
I don't know. Mine's
It'll work better. This is pretty.
mine is still the most expensive, or close to the most expensive fertilizer out there. But we'll get
3 times as big.
Well, we'll
and
get
it's
to
way more
fertilizers
food.
here in a bit. So I appreciate that all the support you've given me, and that it makes everything 3 times bigger plus. So
It's just,
I mean,
it's
you're
almost inhumanly big.
right there is one of my original guinea pigs.
Yeah, right there.
I
So
didn't grow any taller, but I mean.
yeah, you didn't grow. It didn't work on you. You were too
It
old
didn't work
already.
on me for the final pummel, but the
Yeah.
plants, yes.
Yeah, you were too old already. We gave up on you a long time
I
ago.
know.
So.
So that's good.
So yeah, so if you're doing that, cottonseed meal will help do it, but again, monthly, cottonseed meal will work well. Some of your organic fertilizers, if you're just doing individual ingredients like nitrogen, is alfalfa meal, blood meal, corn gluten meal, soy meal, and again, if you're going to an independent garden center, those are going to be your non-GMO ones. You can get balanced ones that have full NPK. That's going to be cottonseed meal, bat guano, neem seed meal, fish meal. Those are going to be full, complete. Seabird guano. Those are going to be full, complete fertilizers. So, yes, we can talk about my fertilizer at the end. That's when I've got the captive audience. So, So with questions popping up, I think we got off on tangents. So we need to come back on things. So planting, we got planting down. Soil pH, we're good. Watering, is everybody good on that? So summertime, the first summer, you might be 2 to 4 times a week watering, depending upon how hot it is. Is it more around 100? Are we 110, 115? How well your soil retains the moisture. Are you sandier soils where you have to water more frequently but not as long? Heavy clay soil. By the 3rd or 4th year, you should be down to about once a week watering, good long slow deep soaking. If you've got a good amount of compost, you could extend that out to every 10 to 15 day water. Now, do know that avocados do like some humidity, which we tend to lack here until the monsoon season kicks in. So we hope that we at least get some humidity with it, because avocados do like humidity. One thing avocados do not like is wind. So wind can knock all of your flowers off, it can knock your small setting fruit off, it can break limbs, so it's going to prune your tree for you, where avocado trees do not need much pruning. About the only avocado tree that might need pruning, some of them grow in a more columnar form. So if you see a certain variety that you like, see what the growth shape is. So if they're more columnar, then you can cut out the center, you can do a center open cut on it so that it will grow fatter and bushier. Otherwise, most avocados do tend to grow bushy. Anywhere from 25 to 40 feet tall is typical around here, and 20 to 30, 35 feet across. They can get 60, 80 feet tall. Average lifespan here is 20 to maybe 40 years. They can live 300 to 400 years under ideal conditions. So,
How deep do you want the water?
well, you want to get your water down in the top 2-3 feet of the soil. Like I said, if you've got good soil, avocado roots can run 5 feet deep. The majority of the roots will be in the top 1 to 2 feet of the soil. And avocado roots can choke out other trees. So since they are used to understory trees, starting out in the shade, sometimes growing underneath other trees, they can choke out their original parent tree later on, kill it, so that they grow up, because they like to start in the shade and grow up into the sun.
What's a good bag soil that I can buy to start off with? Because I can't seem to get in trouble with stuff.
Well, so if you want good bagged soils, any peat moss, they're all relatively the same. So there is bumper crop is a good compost. Black gold has good soils, and the happy frogs are also good soils. So those would all be good soil mixes that are available here. So yeah, and if you want afterwards, there's a couple companies that can custom blend for you. If you look like AAA fertilizer, D&D materials. I haven't been out to Pioneer in a while to see what they have, but you can check them. But if you're wanting to do bagged soil, those would be some of the better ones to get. Now, so here's one other thing. We're going to backtrack a little bit. So A and B types, everybody knows avocados are nice and creamy, have a lot of oil. A types tend to have better oil content than B's, and are purported to have a better flavor. Since my wife has only gotten me to start eating avocados, say about 2 days ago, to get ready for this class, I can't comment to that end of it, but yeah, so we'll leave that up to everybody else. I don't eat avocados. Even though I could live off of, my dinner could be a quesadilla with green chilies, bowl of chips and salsa, and a pitcher of margaritas. Leave the avocado and guacamole and that stuff off. Only very lately has she got me trying it, eating it. So yes. Slowly. So she got me on there. So.
Do you keep the trunk covered and shaded?
Oh yeah, you always keep your trunk. So with your avocado tree, if you wish to start your own from seed, and there is information all over the internet saying they may start producing in 4 or 5 years from seed. And anywhere from 7 to 20 years of age is when they start producing from seed.
Oh my God, 20 years?
7 to 20 years you are
From a
waiting.
seed.
From seed. So if you buy, If you buy a grafted one, they may start flowering in 1 to 2 years, but it'll be 3 to 4 before you get any decent type of production on it. So now you can buy larger avocado trees that are already well into bearing age. You're just not going to let them set fruit the first year so that they can get a good root system established. You can also go ahead and start fertilizing them right away the first year if you use an organic fertilizer. And doesn't need to be high in nitrogen. 4 to a 7 is good. You can take an organic fertilizer. If you look at most organic fertilizers that are designed for flowering promotion, they're low in nitrogen. So as long as it's not over a 2 or a 3, and a 0 to 1 is better, you can mix that in at planting. And that's going to help encourage better root growth, get them growing down in and get more root growth on them. And pretty much most all organic fertilizers nowadays have mycorrhizae in them. Mycorrhizae are beneficial fungi. They colonize the plant roots. They aid the plants in many different facets, helping to break down phosphates in the soil, making them more available, making other nutrients more available, extracting more moisture that may not have otherwise been available to them. The main one that interacts with about 90% of the edible crop plants in the world was Glomus intraradices. And I say was because they've renamed the Latin name to Rhizophagus intraradices. Now it's Rhizophagus, and they're changing the second Latin name now, and they can't just leave things alone. So they've got it's going to be a whole new Latin name. So if you look at some labels, you may still even see the Glomus intraradices, because when it comes to buying bags for your fertilizer and stuff, it's economical to buy 50,000 bags at a time. So if you just ordered 50,000 bags before they changed it, you don't want to have a bonfire with 50,000 bags and have to buy another 50,000 bags to have the new name on it. So generally, most states are pretty good at letting you sell out of your old bags before you got to change the name. If you can show, hey, I just had these were out in production, they'll generally let you get away with it. So yeah, that is one thing to note. So if you see Glomus intraradices, Rhizophagus intraradices, or Rhizophagus, I can't look it up online since we've got the Zoom going, but yeah, there's going to be a new name for it out there. So that is the best one to have. Take your organic fertilizer, or you can buy the mycorrhizae by itself. And so if you buy the mycorrhizae by itself, just follow the label directions for how much to use. If you're using an organic fertilizer that's already blended, you're just going to take a small handful, because that mycorrhizae is just a small percentage, and do like a light dusting. So if it looked like a dusting of snow on the ground, that's what you want of the fertilizer on the bottom, and then the root ball goes right on top of it. Because the roots need to make contact with the mycorrhizae to be at their best. So put that in there. They're going to grow, they're going to colonize with it, and your roots are going to grow out that much better, stronger, healthier, and you're going to have a healthier tree.
Does it never go down, filter through, eventually get down into the
It will go down in with it, and there are even water-soluble forms of mycorrhizae. So you can have water-soluble forms as well. So get those. They cost much more, but yeah, there are water-soluble forms. There are even liquid forms already done up that you can put on out there, and it will get down in there. So if you take your organic fertilizer, you don't have to do this with most organic fertilizers. You can just apply it on top and water it in. But if you lightly rake it into the surface of the soil, or go out to about the edge of the drip line where you know most of the new roots are emerging, dig a little trench, even just down a few inches, bury it in there, cover it, and water it in, so you've got it near where some of the roots are, and then they'll make contact and they'll keep going there for already established trees. So, any questions on anything so far?
I'm not growing it from seed, I know that.
You're not growing it from seed? No,
And then
you're,
grabbing onto it.
yeah, you're too old already. You wouldn't even see the 7 years, so that's, I love you, sweetheart.
She's gonna beat you.
I know she's gonna beat me after class. I'm gonna need an escort out to my truck after we're all done with class here. So, yeah, so she knows. She's my, over the years we're calling her mother number 18, so I got many of them out there.
Only
So,
18?
your mother number 18?
I can't be number
No,
I don't think
no. You especially can't be number one, and you know why. But
I know.
so now fertilizing. So if you look at even some of the other recommendations from some universities where I've studied it, so avocados are native down from Mexico all the way on down. They've been shown to be growing natural range up to the Rio Grande many, many years ago. I mean, they've been in use for known well easily 5,000 years, and they've even found pits in some caves going back 10,000 years. So avocados have been around a long time. So you look at some of these universities, they're going to tell you, hey, you can just go in with ammonium sulfate, which is one of the strongest synthetic chemical fertilizers. It's just 21% nitrogen, and follow the label directions and have at it and push that out for your avocados. If you're going to do that, you're going to be about 3 to 5 times a year. If you do an organic, you want to be, again, starting early mid-spring, and you can go into, if you're Phoenix, you might be mid-February to mid-March. Tucson, mid-March to mid-April, because you want those nighttime temperatures warming up. You want to see the nights getting up into the 50s. You don't want to be pushing them too early for that. And you can continue on. You can't even go all summer, but you want to go at least into early summer, then again in the fall. Because they tend to flower as early as January on a mild winter, especially more central Arizona, you want to apply a flower promoting fertilizer in the fall. So if you're Phoenix area, maybe late October to late November, because you don't want to do it too early, because if it gets mild and then warms back up, they might be blooming the beginning of December. Tucson, sometime October. Apply it, water it in well. It's not to promote growth, that you're getting a formula that's designed to promote flower. The trees are going to uptake those nutrients, have them there ready for use when the tree starts to flower several months later. If you try and put it on after the trees are already flowering or in bud, they're done blooming before it's broken down and gotten up in there. Because phosphorus, which is what promotes blooming, does not break down readily. It takes time to break down, and mycorrhizae actually help break it down even quicker. So having them in the soil is what's going to help out with it. So that's what you want to watch and follow. Any questions then on fertilizing? We could get into some specific nutrients, or I can use you as a captive audience and promote my fertilizer, which I know several of you in here know. Like I said, my original guinea pig right over there. We love you, baby. Then, it's so.
I remember when you were at Magic Garden giving the recipe out.
Yes, so were you one of my guinea pigs
A
too?
long time ago. I don't think I ever took the time to put it all together. I don't have time for that. I was so happy when you came up with your own.
Yeah, so Roxanne, so if anybody ever sees a picture of me showing a grapevine with one on the right that's grown out 15 feet and one on the left that's grown out 5 feet, that's her grapevines. And that was my fertilizer here versus what she was buying from Home Depot. Yeah, so.
And you had less of the skeletonizers
Yes.
each
So-
year.
Oh.
Yeah, and they
Less
were almost
less
non-existent, non-existent on the ones that I had done on his, put his fertilizer on, but the other side, and these were, like 10 feet apart.
Yeah.
The ones over here were.
Okay, so
Does that have anything to do, there's neem seed meal, right? Does that help up?
no, so I'm just going to repeat what she said because I don't think it came
Yeah, sorry.
through clear on the audio here for those listening. So what she had said was these plants were about 10 feet apart, and if you've ever grown grapevines, they get skeletonizers, the little black and yellow caterpillars, and she had less and less of those appearing every year to almost being non-existent on the grapevine treated with my fertilizer versus the one that she didn't. Neem is not systemic, so even if you apply the liquid directly down into the soil, it is not systemic. It is not absorbed up through the roots. That's not how it goes. Neem meal in itself, so neem meal is just what's left of the seed after they've pressed the oil out. And there can be varying oil content. Some companies will guarantee you that they've pressed a certain amount of oil out because they want to sell the oil. They make more money on that than they do as the fertilizer. So the neem meal is constituted as a green manure crop. So neem meal is a great organic matter. It has all 16 nutrients in it, which you don't get with coffee grounds. And so it's got everything there that the plants already need. There are some studies out of India showing that it increases earthworm numbers and productivity anywhere from 8 to 15%. So in the right percentage. If you make it too strong, it's not going to do anything. It helps nitrogen last longer in the soil. So like I said, when you put nitrogen, as soon as you start to water, it leaches out. That's why they always have problems with fertilizer pollution in the Midwest and the waterways and everything. Farmers going out there, and farmers have gotten much, much better at it. They don't have hardly the issue that they did in the past. They put that there. So neem meal works so good at a denitrification agent that there are some companies in Asia now where they're taking the synthetic fertilizer and they're prilling them. So they're coating the fertilizer with neem meal to help the nitrogen last longer when they put it out there in the ground. So it has numerous benefits. Where you're seeing less insect feeding, and this is my own hypothesis at this point, there's two things, two working theories. One is that it's a higher Brix level content, so that insects tend to leave plants alone with a higher Brix level. So Brix level is a measurement of the sugars in the plant. I also have volcanic ash in my fertilizer, so the volcanic ash has a silica content in it. So the silica content, that makes the foliage stronger, tougher as well. Silica, there are university studies out now showing that silica increases heat and drought tolerance of your plants after long-term use, meaning 2 to 5 years. That took me a while too, just like eating avocados. My wife got me eating grape leaves just because she made them off of our grape plant, and I can tell you, and she will attest to it, that after I started using the fertilizer on our own grapevine at home, there is a different texture to the grape leaves. You can tell that it is different there. Also, healthier plants. Healthier plants are not liked by insects because they are better able to ward off insect attack. Plants like weak, diseased, water-stressed, nutrient-stressed, underwatered, overwatered plants, that's what they like to attack. They want a weak tree because that's easy to attack and eat from. It can't defend itself very well. So you've got, it's our saying, happy roots make happy shoots. So happy, healthy soil, which is when I formulated the fertilizer, I did it with the whole thought and idea in mind of building the health of the soil back up, promoting the soil biome. So you get a good, strong soil biome, having plenty of beneficial fungi and bacteria in the soil. The plants are going to do better having more beneficial bacteria and fungi in the soil. They're also going to help outcompete the deleterious bacteria and fungi in the soil. So it's competition as well. So you're going to have a little bit of everything in there. So yes, my fertilizer is bat guano, kelp meal, neem seed meal, molasses in a powdered form, baker's molasses. So it's dehydrated baking molasses. So if you can't find any baking molasses for your goods, blame me because I buy it by the ton. Magnesium sulfate, that is your Epsom salt. So fertilizers can't say Epsom salt on the label. States don't let them do that. So Epsom salt, magnesium sulfate. Magnesium is what makes photosynthesis happen. No magnesium, no photosynthesis. Read your fertilizer label. If it says it contains magnesium sulfate, stop adding Epsom salts because too much of a good thing is no longer a good thing. It has the volcanic ash and the mycorrhizae. So we were voted, I didn't even know it. I think it was an editor's choice pick that was what got us nominated last year for Phoenix Magazine for Best in the Valley for Phoenix for fertilizer, which was a pleasant surprise. So,
It's because you worked it.
Well done.
yeah, so that was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, good.
Proud mom moment.
So,
Well, 18.
yeah.
I got a new freezer.
So any questions?
What's the name of the fertilizer that you make?
Tony's, well, so the company name, the brand name is Earth's Original Organics. Earth's Original Organics, right here on my shirt. So Earth's Original Organics, that's the website, that's the YouTube channel. And they sell it right here at EcoGrow, so you could probably even harass Brandon before we leave to open up the shop for you so you could buy some.
We all call it Tony's Magic Mix.
And so I asked all my guinea pigs when I was formulating it to name it for me. And it was Tony's Pixie Dust, Tony's Fairy Dust, a few others I can't even say the name of. And I said, I'm not trying to name it after myself. And Debbie retorted, it's my garden on crack. And what are we, 7, 8 years later? She still calls it my garden on crack. I even had another customer just a month ago up in Phoenix tell me that, yeah, her husband calls it crack for my garden. So there we go. We're covering this grammar from both ends. So, yes. So, and it works on everything. Avocados to zinnias. You don't need to have 10 different fertilizers on your shelf. You really don't. I was at a cannabis conference once. The last speaker of the day, lady came out, she was a university professor, and the first words out of her mouth was, you all are a bunch of idiots. And we sat up, and I was right away, I love you. Confirm why I love you. And she said, you all are buying a bunch of different fertilizers to give them to what your plants need. You're buying 5, 6, 10 different fertilizers when they require these nutrients, and you can buy it all in one formula. You don't have to buy 10 different formulas. You need one for flower, for overall growth and health, and since you're trying to make these tomato plants do what they're not supposed to do indoors in a short time period, then you can go ahead and get a special fertilizer just for, come on, you're a former cop. You should know that when cannabis was illegal, it was Jamaican tomato farmers. That's what they were, it's Jamaican tomatoes. And so that's what we call them. Anybody came into the nursery and started asking certain questions or looking for certain nutrients, we said, oh, you're a Jamaican tomato farmer. So
that
yes.
was one of our first conversations with you ages ago.
Yes.
This is really good for growing cannabis. Okay. Not
So-
sure what we said, but okay.
Yeah, so,
Did you have that look?
I
You
said
just
that
had
look.
that, just that look that says, I know what is wrong. She'll explain that.
yeah, I know, she had no idea what Jamaican tomato farmers are. So I don't know how we went from avocados to cannabis,
Yeah.
but we do like to have humor here.
Just
And
unlock the story, you get some of the stuff.
And it is a free-for-all for questions at the end, whatever you've got. Use me and abuse me while you got me.
I have one more question.
Yes,
The type A's and B's.
okay.
Just looking up, Stuart says type A, but with B characteristics. What the heck does that mean?
Okay, well, I guess I would have to
And
go
can I
to,
have a Stuart, like, I got Stuart Fuerte right now. That's good, right? A and B.
that's good. So I would almost have to go to the website. So the question was,
It's came up
Uh,
several times.
looking up Stewart. Stewart says it's a type A with type B characteristics. So that can be somebody now being a very difficult way of explaining, like I had said, that they now know that all avocados have A and B together simultaneously. So the average home gardener does not need 2 trees to produce fruit.
So that's one of them then.
So
Stuart
that's,
would be one of
well,
them.
that would be all of them. So that you can do it with a single tree. So, long story short, some of you know I had worked with another investor some years ago, co-developed him for potting soil for the cannabis industry and everything. And one of the guys who worked for the team, his father-in-law got some of the fertilizer, trialed it. He was in an area that would see triple-digit temperatures for low triple digits, maybe for a week out of the year. And his tree was a good 25 feet tall, roughly. Everybody told him it's not going to produce here, especially not going to produce because you've got a single tree and you need 2 trees. And his largest harvest was 68 fruit. I have Tony's Magic Mix for growth, Tony's Magic Flower for blooming, rooting, which works great on plumerias and adeniums as a side sales pitch. And so he put 3 applications on. He didn't recall whether he did 2 of the mix and 1 of the flower, or 2 flower and 1 of the mix. But in all the years of having that avocado tree, 68 fruit was his largest harvest. He got 363 avocados that first year on that tree. Following year, he didn't have any fertilizer left, didn't get any from me, and he got around 250 fruit. Average commercial production for avocados is 200 to 300 fruit on a tree. Home gardener is going to be 50 to a little over 100. So I've got a gentleman in North Phoenix whose avocado was purchased, grafted variety, I believe around 9 years old, 8 years old, when his landscaper started using the fertilizer on it a year and a half ago. So last year was the first year it flowered, and he got several dozen avocado fruits on it. This year, a month ago, when we were under our nice blanket of snow here in Tucson, the end of February, 1st of March, something like that. So when we had all our snow here, his avocado tree was a greenish yellow with flowers. You didn't hardly notice the leaves. It's just, I got pictures of it, just solid flowers. And what they do there is they take both fertilizers, the mix and the flower, because he's got a lot of roses, jasmines, mangoes, avocados, but everything planted in there, and all interplanted. So they put those in dry every 2 months, and then in between, they do it as a fertilizer tea, is like a liquid drench. And everything just is taken off and exploded. So it's he's redoing his backyard now. I went to stop by a few weeks ago, and I was running late, so next thing I knew is I'm pulling up. He's sending me 200 pictures on WhatsApp because he was redoing the backyard and wanted me to have plenty of before pictures because he was doing a lot of pruning and thinning and cleanups, and now we're going to take 200 after pictures, I guess, to match the 200 before, which is great. God bless him. I love it. He's been a great supporter. So yes, you can do it. Health of the tree helps. Having healthy soil is going to should aid in having healthier plants and a larger and better harvest. So, any other questions? And on anything, avocados or what have you here at this point.
When avocados eventually someday, when I'm 80 and I have fruit growing, can you harvest them sequentially? Do they tend to ripen all at the same time?
So that's what we forgot. Thank you. So harvesting avocados. Avocados do not ripen on the tree.
Oh.
They will grow to mature size on the tree. Then they fall off and ripen on the ground in general. You might occasionally see some ripen on the tree here and there, but in general they ripen off the tree. So when they get to mature size, you can pick one or two, depending on how many you have on your tree, take it indoors, wait 3 to 5 days. If it is not ripened by then, it is too early to harvest them. So if it just shrivels up and dies, forget it. Wait another week or so, try another one or two, and then this way too, you do not have to harvest them all at once. Bring several in because once they ripen, you might keep them 1 to 3 days in the fridge. If you turn them into guacamole, you can freeze it and it's going to last longer. But they do not ripen on the tree, so pick them.
So don't wait.
You can, yeah. So like when I said that gentleman harvested 363 fruit, he knows because he didn't harvest all at once, and he numbered them as he was harvesting. He wrote a number on each and every fruit because he was so happy with how many fruit he got. So,
When you
yes.
bring them in, you said 2 or 3 days?
Yeah,
So do you
once they
say-
ripen, they're only good for so many days.
Yeah, but I mean, when you're bringing them in, is it sort of like tomatoes where you only leave 2 or 3 rows?
No,
what I'm saying?
you're-
So that they're not.
Oh, not 2 or 3 rows, only bring in as many fruit as you can eat within that few days to a week. You don't have to bring in rows of avocados because then they may all ripen at once on your counter, and then you're going to be eating 5 or 10 avocados a day to eat the rows that you brought in. Bring in half a dozen at a time, let those ripen, eat those, bring in another half a dozen, bring in a dozen, however many are in your family, how quickly you can eat them, and just lay them out on your countertop.
I
And
bought some from Costco, what, 2 weeks ago? They're in the fridge, and they're still good.
Yeah, if you put them in the fridge, they will take much longer to ripen because it's
Oh,
cool
okay.
in there. They're
Okay.
gonna ripen outdoors at room temperature on your counter.
Oh, okay.
So if you, and,
I just stuck them in the fridge and they're still awesome.
and again, they're gonna pick them early for grocery stores, and when they pick them early for grocery stores, they go immediately into cool storage so that they don't continue to ripen. Now, if you pick them and you want them to ripen fast, so you picked a number of them, put a banana or an apple in a bag with them, and they're gonna ripen overnight. So, because bananas and apples produce lots of ethylene gas naturally, which is what ripe fruit produces on its own. So you can do that. Now, occasionally, if you've got your own tree, you're gonna get what are called cukes on your, so they're gonna be 1 to 3 inches long, and it's just an unpollinated avocado, which occasionally do still hang onto the tree. There's no seed or pit or anything in them. Commercial growers just throw them away because they've got their industry standards, and most people aren't gonna know what they are, but you will occasionally see it in your own home garden. I've heard that there are a few people, so maybe on, like farmers markets, fruit stands where guys are out there doing them on their own, they may be selling them, but yeah, they call them cukes, and they're just little things like this, and yeah, you can go out and have them because that's what they look like. Since they didn't pollinate and aren't growing a seed inside, they look like a little tiny cucumber there. So, lots of neat little things.
Do you have any pictures of the tree in Phoenix?
Yeah, I can't show them to you until we
Can't
get
show
off
'em?
the, well, I'm on Zoom right now, so I
Right.
can't show it to you on my computer till we get off of Zoom.
Right.
If you go to my Instagram and Facebook page, they are on there. So yes, that's where you'll
I'm
find it.
curious how much shade it has now that it's producing.
Oh, it's in full sun.
Full sun.
It's been in full sun for like 2 years, 3 years. It's well up into full sun for the last several years. And that's Phoenix, it's North Phoenix, so 115. But it's maintained properly now and watered properly.
Sure.
That's, like I said, there's water and there's proper irrigation. This business of running my drip system every day to put a little bit on there is the worst thing you can ever do for any plant, avocados in especially, because that's going to help keep the pH up, keep salts up, and give you all kinds of issues. It's not what you want to do. You water it, you wait 2 days if it's a newly planted tree the first summer, water it a little bit again, and by the 3rd year, 4th year, you're watering once a week. And like I say, if you've got a good amount of compost or mulch around it, you may be watering every 10 to 15 days. But that's where you're letting the hose or irrigation run for 6 or 8 hours, and that's with maybe 15 2-gallon-an-hour drip emitters. You want to let that top 6 inches of soil re-dry back out in between waterings once the tree is established. First year, shorter waterings more frequently because you're establishing the tree, but water out a good sized area because you're not just watering the tree, you're trying to water out to here to encourage the roots to grow out to here. And to water deep, and so deep watering doesn't happen in 20 or 30 minutes. Think of a winter rain. Good, long, all day soaking winter rain may only soak in the ground here the top 1 to 3 inches. We had a rainfall, and I have to go back about 20 years because that was when it occurred, like March or April here in Tucson, and it was just a long, slow, steady, all-day gentle rain. Somebody at the University of Arizona went out and studied it afterwards. That long, all-day, literally all-day gentle rain soaked in the ground the top 7 inches of the soil. So you think of what you're doing with your drip or hose irrigation, how long it's going to take you to get down 2 or 3 feet into the soil.
I always tell people it's easier for me to describe it to them. Stand out, it's 90% humidity, stick your tongue out. I said, do you feel hydrated? So when you water it for a short, shallow period of time, and you're watering it up close to the trunk, you don't have the ability to have the water get to where the root system is that you want it to be established.
Yeah.
To encourage roots to go out. So, nighttime rather than daytime, is it the same with fruit trees or?
I like evening water.
Yeah, I like.
I do watering in the evening, so.
same here, because it.
Right after my irrigation system comes on at 6 in the evening and runs for 6 hours.
Right, same thing.
Any other questions?
Nope, but does anybody want an orange tree?
So, class dismissed.
Class
All right,
dismissed,
hang on.
yeah.
So, all right, everybody who's on here online, thank you for joining. You can email me directly from the Earth's Original Organics website. You can message me via Instagram at Tony's Magic Mix. Facebook is Earth's Original Organics, and we have just started up a YouTube channel, Earth's Original Organics. It's going to take some time. We're going to have to do some splicing and editing to get this posted out there onto YouTube. Especially since somebody informed me when you have a new account, they limit you to about 15 minutes, and we're a good hour, over an hour. Apologies for being late in getting started with Zoom tonight. We had some issues launching it. The code was wrong, what stayed in my computer when I went to launch it versus what everybody else had. We've got it corrected. Now we should have no more issues going forward. So, thank you, Leandra. Have a blessed evening. Look forward to seeing you again soon and seeing how things are going. So, thank you, everybody. Have a good evening, and we're signing off.